This is Kevin Cates with University of Arkansas at Little Rock Department of Art and Design, and I have sort of tasked myself with putting together a small kind of tutorial video to help students with scholarship applications. Some of you guys have been applying for scholarships at our department, and this is a video to sort of help you guys put together a portfolio that you can submit along with your application. And it's not really meant to be as a do-all end-all of how to create a portfolio, but more of something that just shows you sort of how to size images appropriately after photographing them appropriately, and then gathering together in a document that you can submit that will make it really easy for professors and staff to view the portfolios to vote for scholarships. So I hope you enjoy to get something out of it, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My contact information will be at the end of the video. Thank you very much. I have basically a folder created on my Google Drive for my scholarship application that I'm going to be working in. On my desktop, I've got 3 different images that I've actually pulled off of my camera. These are some images that I took at the Penland School of Craft out in North Carolina by some friends of mine, and you can see that they sort of are indicative of what a photograph would be taken by a student of a work. You know, it's not perfectly it's not perfectly square or lined up with the edges, but you know, we get a good indication of the color. It's lit really well. It does have some crude clips in here, but we're not really concerned with that. We just want to see the work, and we don't expect you know, the students to spend several $100s getting the work professionally photographed. Just as long as it's photographed with a bright light source. Typically photographing outside on a slightly overcast day is good, because that sort of diffuses the sunlight and doesn't put really harsh shadows on anything. This was actually taken in a room with LED lights, so this particular side of the room, it worked out pretty well. This next one right here was actually taken in the same room on the opposite wall, and so we have a little bit more shadow here, so we had a little bit of a different situation over there, but I'm sort of going to be cropping this out anyway. And then finally, this was actually taken in a studio, so we have a little bit of a shadow from an overhanging fixture up here, but we can see the detail of the work pretty nicely, and that's really all that matters. Okay, so these came off of an iPhone, so you see that they have the HEIC, which I'm going to actually do away with that, because get these into a JPEG format and make them a little bit easier to handle. And so I'm just going to double click these and open them up into the preview application, which is what comes with the Mac, and I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cropping and get them saved as JPEGs to make them a little bit easier to work with. And so in my program here, all I have to do is basically sort of draw a selection around the artwork, and you know, this is not going to take a tremendous amount of cropping, because I don't really want to crop out of the image. Once I sort of get the selection made, I can just go to Tools and Crop, and then I can actually export this out as a JPEG. So I'm going to select Export and have a window that pops up here, and I'm going to say JPEG and make sure that I'm going to the desktop. At this point, I could actually rename the file if I wanted to make it a little bit easier to deal with. So in this one, I'm just going to call this Triptych. I'm not sure if I know how to spell that correctly, so we're going to go with that. And the next one is going to be the pictures of the photographs here. And so I'm going to take this and do another crop on this. And again, it's not really that big a deal, but this just cuts down on the actual size of the picture a little bit and sort of takes out some of that unnecessary material. And this one I'm going to export as well. And this one I'm just going to call my photos. So I'm going to go ahead and change it right here and export it out as a JPEG. And this quality is set pretty high, and it shows us about how big the file size is going to be, so that's just fine. All right, there's my photos. And then lastly, I'm going to open up the picture by my friend June. They call her the Chicken Lady because she does a lot of chicken prints that are really, really intricate and really beautiful. And again, I'm just going to sort of crop in on this and do that, and not going to worry about resizing it, and then I'm going to export it as a JPEG rather, and select JPEG. And this one I'm just going to call I'm calling it a chicken. I don't think it's a rooster, so I'm just going to call it chicken. All right, and then I have my 3 images that I'm going to be working with. Now I always like to keep originals, so you usually want to keep those handy, because if you take photos of work, you want to have those intact. So these are some that I actually just manipulated and actually just cropped a little bit. So I'm going to take these 3 guys and I'm going to upload them right into my folder on Google Drive, and you can see it's sort of processing, coming in pretty quickly. All right, so we're going to work with these three to sort of give us a basis for how the portfolio works, and usually it's about 10 to 12 slides that we want you guys to upload. And the good thing about the way I'm doing is it sort of creates one PDF file that has everything with it, so you just upload one file rather than uploading a series of those. So what we're going to do now, we had this open here, we have this folder going, so we're going to go ahead and create a new Google Doc and go to blank document. All right, so that's going to pop open just a blank document. It looks a lot like Microsoft Word, but it's a lot simpler. And I'm just going to call this one UA Little Rock Scholarship Portfolio. And hit return. Okay, and so we're saving, and the good thing about this is this will actually save, refresh this right here, it actually saves in this folder because that was the actual folder that was up when I actually created it. So if I want to go back into it, I can just double click that, but here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a name and a title, and I'm going to call this, let's say that, I guess I could put the high school I'm from, so I'll just put my high school. If you're a student currently at UA Little Rock, it really doesn't matter there. Maybe contact information might help, or you might want to put your phone number, and I'm just going to go ahead and title this UA Little Rock Scholarship Application Portfolio. All right, so we're going to take that and just not worried about jazzing it up too much because we just want it pretty straightforward, but I am going to give this some larger text in there just so people know what it is when they're looking at it. Now, some people, we do, in some situations, we like to have one of these slides that actually shows what the work is, and some people will actually put several different works, and at the very end they'll put like slide 1 this, slide 2, and they'll talk about what the media is, how large it is, and so forth. You can do that, or in some situations you can just include it on the slide itself. So I'm going to sort of approach it that way, just so I kind of know what the works of art are done with as I'm looking at them. And so I've got the beginning page here, and I want to go to a second page. So the easiest way to do that is to go up here and say Insert, Break, and Page Break. And that will take me to the next slide right here. Okay, so let's pull in one of my images. We're going to go to Insert Image, Upload. Actually, I'm going to go to Drive rather. And you'll see that hopefully, yeah, so we've got the recent ones, and there's several other student works that came up here as well. There's some freelance as well. You can actually go to My Drive, and you can see that mine is a little bit difficult to make out. Let's just switch it to the names, and let's find out where that folder is. And I think it's right down here in the main folder. I've got a lot of stuff going on right here. And then I've got my scholarship application here. So here's my 3. And you can see that it was actually in the recent areas here as well. I just went to the folder here to get it. So I'm going to place the chicken in. All right, so I just double clicked it. And now that it's in here, it's actually centered. And so I can just sort of grab the corners and resize it. And the great thing about Google Drive is it constrains the proportions, so you don't get it out of proportion. And so we've got this guy in here. So now I'm just going to hit return. And the typeface is a little big because it remembers that this was 30 point. So I'm just going to reduce this size a little bit down to about 14 or maybe 12. And for this one, I'm just going to call this one, I don't remember what she actually named it. I'm just going to call this Big Chicken. And we're going to say that this was a woodcut. Actually, it's a reduction. Oh, that's my text messaging coming up, so I may have to disable that before that starts distracting. Let me see here. See if I can actually turn that off. That's going to keep going off if I don't. And I don't think it's going to play sound effects. There we go. So let me just turn that off real quick. Okay, back to this. And Big Chicken, this is a reduction. Forgive me, I'm not sure, June, what it was actually called. And we're going to say, the size was, you can see that it went down to the next line. Let's say it was about 30 inches by 40 inches. Okay. Now, one thing about this is fine art is usually, from what I understand, I come from a graphic design perspective, and I think that you're supposed to put the width first. I'm not sure about that. I usually just put the actual dimensions. I go width and height because I think about like 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. And so I'm just going to do this. So again, nobody's going to be checking that homework. We just want to look at this and get an idea. This is a very large print, and it is done with wood cut, so we want to know that particular idea. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this back up here and just going to put a little pipe between them. So that pretty much gives me my first designation, so we can see this is really big. And there are some default margins set in here, and that's why we're sort of bumping down to the next line. I can actually do that if I actually format. I think if I go to page setup, I can format that. So see, my margins are 1 inch, and so I could change these to give me a little bit more real estate on the page if I wanted to. That bumps it up a little bit more. Okay, so I've got that set in, and what I can do now is insert another page break. And then let's come in here and insert another image from Drive, and we're still in that folder. So I'm just gonna double click that in, and let's just kind of scoot that down a little bit. Now, since I've already got this sort of typed in, I could just copy and paste this down here and just copy it, but I'm just going to hit return. Should be about the same. And I don't really remember the title of these. These were just different ones that were done. So I'm just going to say, let's just say that these were still, or just say in the environment, just making up a title here. And these are digital photographs, although some of these are actually traditional. And I'm just going to say various sizes. All right. Okay, there's that. And again, it's really just going to depend on what your medium is. You can say digital photography. You know, the sizes. If there was one photograph, you could put the size of it in there. But you know, a digital photograph, you can print it out pretty much any size. But if it's something like a cyanotype, or if that is a cyanotype, if it's done with a traditional method rather than digital, you know, the size becomes a little bit more important. And so, insert break, page break again, and let's get my other photo in. Here's the triptych, and that one came in pretty good. The width of it was good, and so I don't really have to worry about resizing that. I'm just going to come down here and call this one, I don't remember what Jacob called this one. I'm just going to call it, and again, I hope I'm spelling triptych right. It looks a little bit weird when I'm typing it in. And I don't remember what this was. I'm just going to say 3 panels at, let's say that they were about 20 by 40, 40 inches by 40 inches. And to be consistent, obviously I have my medium first, and then we'll say, you know, this may be a little bit simpler to do it this way. This is always a thought process for me. I'll just go each. And then in this one, it's going to be relief cut. Wood relief cut. All right. And there's that. Okay, so let's say that we have the 3 images right here, and that's pretty much the extent of the portfolio I'm going to put in, just having those 3 pieces. And then we're going to assume that there's probably like 7 more that shows a nice variation of work based on just some of the good stuff that you've done. So now that it automatically saves, so now that we're all good to go, let's go ahead and export this. When you're actually working in Google Drive, you can actually go to Download and go to PDF document. And PDF document will sort of compress everything together and make it a lot easier to work with. You can see that it downloads it down here automatically, and I can actually go to my downloads folder and pull this out. Let's get a lot of this stuff, and you can see that it's a really nice file size. When we look at it here, 1.3 megabytes. So that's really good. That's going to be really easy to email. And so UA Little Rock Scholarship Portfolio, and then I could maybe just attach my name to it and say Kevin or K. Cates, and then I'd have something that shows whose it is. And so if I open this up, you can see that it's pretty much just a direct representation of what was on the Google Drive. So we can sort of scroll down through it and look at it that way. Now, once again, if you wanted to, I put the titles on the slides themselves, but you could actually include a slide at the end that sort of says 1, 2, 3. In that case, you might want to number the work, 1, 2, and 3, and at the very end of it have 1 is Big Chicken, 2 is In the Environment, 3 is Conceptual Triptych, and actually have them labeled that way. And so, but that is a way to actually create a portfolio that will be easy for us to process and look at and vote on. So that pretty much is it. I don't have any other comments to make here. If you have any questions, my email address is klcates@ulr.edu. I'll be happy to answer those before you submit the application. And I look forward to hearing from you if you have questions. And if not, thank you so much for watching.